Um, Hi. I kind of stepped in here. I just want to tell you this in case I seem a little scattered. Stepped in here, I think Thursday or Friday, to replace someone that couldn't be here. And I actually had asked Alex about presenting, but it's a good thing that I went ahead and pursued Hyperdocs as much as I did. But how many people have used Hyperdocs? Anybody? Use links? Send your kids links to use, right? Okay, well, a little background. My in-house technology person is sitting right there. And this year in my PD, I'm taking Julie's technology class. And we're always learning new things. And like the Southeast Polk people said, you just have to jump in. You know, you just have to, and because I actually think that's fun, to just jump in. And I teach 7th and 8th grade. And they rather enjoy maybe seeing a bit of a struggle. Oh, she's still learning this. You know, that's okay. That's okay that they see that. So, yeah, I like to take chances. But why did I choose to get started using Hyperdocs? We are one-to-one with Google Chrome this year at Interstate 35. And previously, I had already been using, a lot of the Google apps and such, and we use Google Classroom. And I was sending my students a lot of links to use and some other things that came into that. One of our, my PLC group this year, one of our focuses with our students is following directions and working on those kinds of things. I do a lot of problem-based learning in my social studies class. We have been trained in gradual release and productive group work. So kind of all of those things, it's like, how can you put this all out to your students? And then another really big piece for me is the organization of the Hyperdoc, because organization is not a strength of mine. So having everything in one place, and I very much empathize with those kids that have that trouble too. So, oh, hey, Alyssa, can you hand me that book right there? The Hyperdocs Handbook, Lisa, Highfield, Kelly Hilton, Sarah Landis, on the agenda piece, I referenced them. Julie let me borrow this, and these 5 little bullets there kind of come from their idea of how to set up a Hyperdoc in 5 easy steps. I seriously didn't look at those before I started. I found those for you guys because, well, when you look at it, it's what we do. You set up your lesson plan, you know what your objectives, content, standards, etc. You think about how you're going to establish that lesson. I really feel like the Hyperdocs are better used for more than just one lesson, but like a whole series of lessons, maybe an entire unit. And then that's their wording, set up your packaging. Which Hyperdoc are you going to use? And I'm going to show you templates today and let you kind of look at those and choose those. And then decide, how are we going to learn? Are we going to have the individual piece? Are you going to do the traditional GRR, partners, collaboration, and then you create it. When I decided, okay, how am I going to put all this together? Because I've been using Hyperdocs. I have a lot of examples to show you. And I thought, I'm just going to make a Hyperdoc of all the Hyperdocs. So that's what you're going to see here in a sec. Those are just some examples there on that screen. So I chose to share with you one that uses explore, explain, apply. I use this one a lot with my students. I really like the part on the side that says your task. Reasons to use Hyperdocs up there. We're all working to plan with the end in mind, infusing technology. One huge piece, I think, especially I'm finding with my 7th graders, is when it's all out there for them, you're really encouraging independence. And you can just constantly say, go back to your Hyperdoc and read the instructions. you know, instead of constantly repeating those kinds of things. Organizing materials for you, organizing materials for them. And my students think they're just fun to look at. You know, when they get a Hyperdoc on their Google Classroom, they're just really excited. Oh, it's got all these things. It kind of depends on the unit and what we're doing, whether or not I give them the whole thing at once, right? So what I did on this one, when you have time to go back and look at the slides, is I left for you on this example, on this template, the exact words that are in there when you get into the template. So those are your instructions in the red, in the pink, in the green of when you get onto a template, it will tell you, you could do this in this box. Then you can do this in this box. And it gives you those guidelines. So you can just jump. You can also change anything on there other than the actual template boxes. Anything else, you can go right in and change, you know, anything there. So one of the first units I did used Hyperdoc with the students was there before Christmas. We did a zombie geography unit, and I don't know, anybody in here teach 7th grade geography or some geography, right? Yeah, do you know about zombie geography? Oh my gosh, it's all over the internet of all these things and how to teach geography using zombies. And it was the best thing I've ever done before Christmas. Because they were just into it. It was awesome. So just to show you some Hyperdocs here. Oh, I think I stuck in on this one. Just the zombiebased.com. Just to show if... it'll come. I don't know why it's so slow. That actual graphic novel right there, I ordered on Amazon for $9, and I did not buy any other materials. You can buy all kinds of materials on here, like spend up to $400, but you can just make up your own stuff. I read that little graphic novel to the kids to get them started. Did have a lot of fun stuff in it to help me create my own things. And then with the zombies, we did a number of Hyperdocs. Got them started with, we had, prior to this introduction of this Hyperdoc, we had been practicing all kinds of mapping skills, looking at different types of map. It was a kind of a review of a mapping unit, plus we were using Latin America. So this just kind of got them started. It's fun because you can insert, right, your photos or a video there. Started out with Google. I'll show you that planning sheet. I gave them some instructions we'd already talked about, and then they needed maps to do the job, so I provided the links. I don't always provide all those, but I was having fun with the Hyperdoc and making the links. So yeah, and sometimes it's better to streamline their search there. So their first, this goes just right to the doc that they had to use. And they were working in small groups and had to answer questions about, their real job was to set up a settlement to escape the zombie outbreak. That kind of was our whole, it was a whole thing, but I won't get into the whole curriculum piece right now. Then they did a settlement report, and the other thing is, if you get into the zombie thing, Center for Disease Control is a great resource because they have preparing students for emergency preparation using a zombie apocalypse. So I use some of their materials. You'll see that. You can just so you can set up So there were our driving questions, doing a little explaining. They had to do the location report. They needed to find their absolute location once they decided on their settlement. What's longitude and latitude? I put on the link there for findlatitudendlongitude.com. Then they had to do a little reflection on Google Classroom as to how their group was working so far. So that just linked them to their classroom, so they didn't have to go back and kids and stuff there. And then there's the settlement report. And then what's next? Are you prepared? And this was the CDC link. So step by step they were working on. So then I used these actual links in the next part. Get out of that one. Whoops. Always do that, lose my, okay, sorry about that. Probably have it up there somewhere, open a million tabs a day. And then I'll just finish up with that part, showing you how then I established they're working in small groups. Productive group work in my room always looks like individual accountability. Everybody's got a job, then bring it back together. And that is what this piece was about. Each group had 3 members. So the first, somebody had to be in charge of putting together the kit, all of the supplies they were going to take to the zombie settlement. Someone had to be in charge of designing the evacuation and the migration plan. And I'll just show you, this came from, all of these ideas did come from the CDC. And so each student had their own doc that they had their jobs to do, with also links inside. So they had to do like a family communication plan, set up all the information for the people they were in charge of there. And that just goes on. And then there was a paper piece of putting a big map together and a presentation. So one thing that I also experimented with, so I thought I would just show you. Has anybody used Edpuzzle? Right? Edpuzzle to clip your videos. I did a number of zombie attacks while the students were working, and I would set an alarm on my phone, and they had to stop. And the thing I like about Edpuzzle is because you can insert the question also. Whoops. I haven't had these on for, there we go. And with using Walking Dead, it's really nice to be able to clip, like a whole lot of stuff and to not have it in there. Oops. I don't need to play it, but here's what I did. This is where you can insert a question. What I actually did with their warnings was give them a longitude and latitude, and they had to find out where that was so they could track the zombies. But just a fun use of, you can insert, questions in there. You could use that for formative assessment also, as well as just part of an activity. The next little part here, the kudos have to go to the Iowa Social Studies Conference a number of years ago now, like maybe 3, 4, I don't know how long. I've been using this Jamestown investigation unit that I did not design. It was one that I believe there was a grant, and a number of people worked on this. And so it was already very organized, but it's, I mean, incredibly organized with links and such. I have done some tweaking, but actually really just put them in Hyperdocs to make it more interesting for the students. So I like the ability to use the Hyperdoc to do a prediction, to do an anticipatory set, some kind of a prediction. One of the things with using Hyperdocs, I have, the students are now in 7th and 8th grade, that they're using their Google Drive, putting folders in for the units that we are working on. Because when you share the doc through a Hyperdoc, they have to make their own copies, as opposed to on Google Classroom when I put them in and make the copy for them. So that's just a bit of difference. But another really time-saving part of that is when they're working and I want to do a formative check, make sure people have jobs done, are getting their pieces put together of whatever the problem-based unit we're doing. I say, we're going to open up our Google Drives today, get your Jamestown folder, open it up, I need to see this doc, whatever it is. And that way, they're not expected to turn everything in. We still turn everything in on Google Classroom, but when it's working materials and you're not turning them in, they're just right there and all organized and you can keep track. So this one we started out looking at the fort, doing some, and then this one I changed the left-hand column. And I really like this one. You can see, you've seen it twice now, because of the your task. And I've changed the titles there to your collaborative task. With this particular unit, my students work in a home-based group, and then they move and they work in an expert group, and then move back to disseminate information in a home-based group with those collaborative tasks. So, and then they had an application piece that then was their own independent task. So the nice thing about it is you can just set up, get that workflow, what's that going to look like. They see it. You can put your Hyperdoc on your Google Classroom. It's right there. But actually, I'm doing that, but my students are just making their own copy of the Hyperdoc and keeping it in their drive. So we had an article over there, Death at Jamestown, and then just the note sheet here that, just to give you examples. We don't need to look at all of them, every single example. And then we did a what if you were there, and I just gave them, we were just beginning, so it was, gathering background, and then now you're the new governor. And if you were there, what 5 things would you change to help? And the actual investigation all has to do with starving time, for those of you who teach U.S. history. I did go ahead and put in the writing piece. Now they're getting ready to do their claims and evidence, and I use a claims and evidence sheet that's actually was really generated more for science. But so that, everything is just there. And it doesn't go away. The awesome thing about using your Google Drive and Google Docs, and we can't claim that it's gone, the computer didn't save it, all of those things that we've heard over and over again. So, any questions about those things so far? Oh, I know. Whoops, I almost missed before I send you guys to look at stuff. I thought this was really, that's actually the website that goes along, right, with the instruction book, and I wanted you to have that link. But I think this is a huge piece that really kind of says it all about why Hyperdocs are so much more than just a doc with some links. some hyperlinks, because you can do, the students can do all the collaboration. Everything's embedded in there. You get to do, it's all your tasks are all in there, whereas just a doc with your links, it's more informational. This is, Hyperdocs allow them to be the doc that has all the things that you do, all of your tasks. There's some really good little explanation there and examples. So that might hopefully help you out. Then I thought, here's the link with the templates that are really easy to use. You just choose one, and remember, you can go in and change any of these. You can change the pictures. It's all up for your creativity there. You just need to make your own copy and put it in your own drive. And that's yep. I really I knew this one was going to be short and quick, because that's kind of like Hyperdocs, is that it's just all so condensed and streamlined. It doesn't take a whole lot of time to go through it. Does anyone have any questions? Can you see yourself using them? Possibly. And you can just cut. Oh, I think, wait a second. I will show you one more, maybe. Did I put? Right. So my 7th graders are working on now is a race around the Pacific Rim. And this one was kind of fun. It was a different template, call to adventure, and all kinds of, task sorts of things over here. I mean, it's just kind of fun to have it all set up, and the students really like it, rather than on a worksheet, rather than even really just on a Google Doc. And then their next piece, and there's their country activity sheet, their first part of their research, and their different, oh, that's actually, the next part, I'm sorry, of their research, but their fact sheet was up above. And then this particular one, this is where we are right now, getting ready for the game. And so you can see on this one, I still have empty boxes. Sometimes with my 7th graders, I don't do the whole thing. You kind of have to decide, do I want them moving on? There are many of the Hyperdoc templates that have an extend section, so you can have that extension for the people that are done early, and need that extra thing to, what do I do now, right? You can just personalize these and make them your own for whatever, whatever purpose you're doing. We're getting ready to play a game that our classroom will become a human board game where they have to travel around the Pacific Rim and answer questions in a collaborative group. And they've got cards that with facts on them, and then they have cards that have actual activities and say, if you know this, blah, 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 you get to move on. If not, the volcano erupted and, you have to go back or whatever. And they earn points, and it's going to be really fun. But, okay, so now I think I'm done. Does anybody have any questions? Or you just want to play for a few minutes? Get into the templates and see what might work for you, and you'll get addicted, I think. helps their organization, helps mine immensely.
All right. Thank you, Vicki.
Yep.